The look of the series is entirely on my shoulders. It's certainly not only me. You know, I've got a whole team of people behind me who back me up and work with me. But the overall responsibility for the look of the series rests on my shoulders.
The art department is run from a small office at the BBC in Cardiff. Here, model makers and graphic artists create the artwork and designs that will end up in the finished programme. A key member of the art department team is design assistant Matthew Savage.
I think I signed up for 2 weeks and I've been here for nearly 9 months now. The workload is relentless. There's loads of things to be done because it's science fiction, and you know, if you're doing something set in the future, everything, you know, down to, you know, cutlery and tiny props has to be designed all the way up to space stations. I spent a lot of time on Jack's gun for 9 and 10, the defabricator cannon from Eps 12 and 13, Jabe's DNA scanner from episode 2, Jack's watch. I did a lot of work on Cassandra and the frame, the tank for the face of Bo, the exterior of Platform 1, the exterior Satellite 5, elements of the TARDIS as well, the console and the rondelles, working in the dressing and the buttons and things. A broad number of different things over the season. Our challenge is to make everything we do credible and stand up against, you know, the 15 years of special effects advances and prop makes. So it's just to make everything look very real and hopefully very fun and futuristic.
Because we have so many different sets, every episode involves a lot of new builds. What we do is make a scale model of every new built set that we need, so we can work everything out ahead of time. Card and mount board and glue is a lot cheaper than timber and a team of carpenters for a week, you know.
Come on, Adam, open your mind.
You're going to like this fantastic period of history. The human race at its most intelligent. Culture, art, politics. This era has got fine food, good manners.
And away! Let's get to it. Thank you very much indeed. Somebody there, that's right. What do you want, another one?
One particular set has been reused many times in the series, but it began life as a sheet of card.
This is the main corridor of Satellite 5. We've got these pillars all around with their feet, little angled feet, which are just made out of angled formers and a layer of ply, and they had grills built into them as well. The construction team will work from the models directly. The sets have been built, you know, exactly as Ed and myself have worked on them to be, so there doesn't seem to be any problem with that. Well, this is the interior Dalek cell in episode 6, where a wealthy millionaire or billionaire is holding a Dalek and experimenting upon it to try and find out what it is. This area here is a pre-existing location, and what we did was make this into the cell area. So I'll use this hugely out of scale Dalek, which would sit there. It's little restraining posts there, and we had lights in these pillars, chains coming across.
The Daleks would prove to be one of the biggest challenges of the series. Returning for a dramatic finale, they were led by their evil chieftain, the Dalek Emperor, and his chamber required special attention.
Here we have our physical set, which is part of the larger chamber. So at the end of 12, there's a pullback from Rose here to reveal the rest of the ship. Ben, our model maker, had already mapped out the shape of the room, and then from there we have to work in where we're going to put detail, how we're going to make it credible. So from the sketch we worked out, you know, the number of pods we're going to have with the corpses in. And just working out how the inside of the ship will look for the matte shot, and just designing the architecture and how this room fits into the rest of the ship. So here is our physical set with the mat line from there, so that's where the mill will take over. And then the big pullback at the end of 12 reveals the rest of the ship. So we're just working out how our room fits into the grand scheme of the chamber and how it repeats, and just trying to squeeze in as many Daleks as we can. For TV, it is a fairly ambitious set. It's fairly big. It has a number of pods with people turning into Daleks, and I mean it's still being built at the moment, but we're hoping it's going to look great, and it lends itself to being repeated, you know, a number of times within the chamber. We have our set, which we will physically make, which is one of a number of rooms in this cavernous chamber. We will then have Mike Tucker's miniature in the middle, and then the mill will paint the rest of the room in a matte shot, and they will composite the three elements to make the one finished visual. We didn't really look at the previous Emperor Dalek because we really wanted us to take that leap forward. The brief that Ed gave Dan was to keep it almost monolithic and like a pyramid.
Work on the Dalek Emperor model has taken several weeks, but it's now time for the model sections to be put together for filming. The work is taking place at the model unit in West London.
Dalek came about because we had a phone call from Ed Thomas saying that obviously there was a requirement in episodes 12 and 13 for the Emperor. The original plan was that they were going to go with the design we had behind us. There were some issues as to whether it could be afforded and whether they just have to go for a bog standard Dalek blown up to sort of 30-foot proportions. And so I got Ed to send me through a set of plans, and having seen them, I decided, yep, it's definitely something we could do, and certainly we could deliver him something special for the finale and a completely different Dalek for people to see in the closing two stories of the show. The shield-like panels on each side. They are only curving in one plane, but of course they've got angles cutting across those curves in every plane, so it was quite a complicated design and R&D process to get the first one made. The usual thing, once you've cracked all the problems with the first one, the remainder are relatively straightforward. So Nick Cool has built up those panels, and that's pretty much taken him the full time of the build to get that aspect of it sorted. But I think all the effort gone into them is worth it because they're going to light nicely, they're going to pick up colour nicely, and we're going to be able to backlight all the spheres protruding through them nicely. So all of these aspects were in the original design brief, and we've been lucky in that we've not been able, or not had to compromise on any of those design aspects. Alan Brannan and myself have concentrated on the torso and the head, if you like.
Mike Tucker, who's running this unit, brought me in to help with construction and finishing on the Emperor Dalek. This particular piece is the Dalek Emperor himself, which is a small sculpted piece out of a material called Sculpey. And it's up to its finishing stages now. It's been through 3 stages of painting so far. There's an undercoat, which gives you the basic colour. A wash of a dark colour into the recesses, which gives you some contrast. And then finally a flick of a lighter colour over the top, which helps, again, punch up the contrast a little bit. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. It's a copy from the larger creature, which has been done by Neil Gorton over on the main unit. Always just help, as I said, tell the story, bring those little changes, put that little bit of detail in. I mean, this job for us has been all about going that little bit further, doing that little bit extra than's been asked, because it's such an enjoyable job to do and such an iconic piece of TV. You know, it's something we've all grown up with, Doctor Who, so it's lovely to contribute. So it's just flicking a little bit of highlights with the spirit-based paint. and then we're practically done, and he's ready to go float in his little tank and take control of the universe.
So tell me, how did you survive the Time War?
They survived through me.
You've got the eye stalk itself on the dome, as per all normal Daleks, but unlike normal Daleks, you can now see the creature itself, which is suspended in its little life support pod, so considerably lower down the torso. So the Doctor is effectively addressing his dialogue both to the eye stalk and to the creature. The animatronic itself is the same one that Neil Gorton built for episode 6 for the big reveal of the Dalek there. It's been brought back out of retirement for episodes 12 and 13 in its role as the Emperor. And that's been shot on location in Cardiff, in a glass tank, and they've done all the big close-ups of the Dalek oozing and sliming and emoting and its eyes moving.
We waited here in the dark space, damaged but rebuilding.
There was an original thought that we would just leave our life support tube empty, but that would mean that the mill would have to then mat in the animatronic creature into every single shot. And what we're hoping is that by putting a small creature in our miniature, the big wide shots of the Emperor, where you're seeing him in his entirety, there will be a creature that matches Neil Gorton's model, but at 1/6 of the scale, which hopefully, we're so far back, you're not going to be apparent that it's got limited, if no, movement. And then when they cut in close, that will obviously be where they'll use the animatronic that's already been shot. So we're just hopefully lessening the workload from Mill.
Purify the earth with fire. The planet will become my temple and we shall rise. This will be our paradise.
As well as three-dimensional objects, labels, signs and even entire languages all have to be designed. And that's the job of graphic artist Jenny Bowers.
The first set of episodes we worked on, the first block, was 2005, London, set in London. So there was a lot of contemporary stuff for that, and also coming up with the Gallifreyan language for the Doctor. This was something that needed to be kind of designed right at the beginning of the show because it needed to be incorporated within the TARDIS console. I just started looking at imagery involving time and clocks and watches and all that kind of thing, just to get somewhere, some kind of point of reference to start from. And the only other picture that I did find was in our big Doctor Who book of one of the Gallifreyan Time Lords wearing a big kind of headdress thing with kind of cut out sections from a big kind of circular thing. So that was kind of, I had that one little picture, and then I started to look at pocket watches and the workings of pocket watches, because they're very intricate, and once you start looking at them quite a lot, there's kind of little planets and stars, and the screws become kind of little stars, and the springs and the coils of the springs start to kind of look like maybe systems, and so that kind of seemed to work for me as a visual thing. He's a Time Lord who travels. He has all these kind of patterns and paths and circular tracks through space, and it kind of sort of seems to fit his kind of the Time Lord history, as it were, kind of that is quite circular and random, and he visits place to place, and he has quite a complicated life. Jack's ship is a stolen Tula ship, and so we needed to kind of give it some kind of Tularization, as it were, make it Tula-esque, to kind of put symbols and kind of switches within the interior of the ship. I made a sort of a language up for that. Starting from the Maori designs of the tattoos and that kind of thing, then kind of break it down into individual symbols, and also I worked from the design of the ship itself, and then kind of sort of incorporated them together so that you get a sort of set of kind of little pictograms so that it becomes kind of an alphabet. So then the symbols then get transferred into sort of different ways of using them within the ship. There's lots of switches and buttons and dials and screens within Jack's ship. And the colour scheme, Ed wanted the whole of the interior to have a very kind of warm feel, because Jack takes Rose there to kind of romance her, and so there's a kind of candlelit feel to the interior. With a lot of these get backlit, so there's kind of a lovely kind of warm glow through a lot of them.
Better now?
You got lights in here?
Hello?
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 Let's not start that again.
Okay.
For this set of episodes 9 and 10, got posters here, kind of. There's some labels for boxes in the storeroom that Rose and the Doctor find themselves in. Plain absorbent gauze bandages, things like that. So they'll get applied to some boxes that go in the storeroom. Air raid shelter notices, gas mask notices. They're very, very much in the style of, and you have to obviously be careful with the fonts you use and the set of colours, and also the way when you. These are designs for them, but when you actually get them printed up, that you get them printed onto the right kind of paper, and that you add a texture to the paper, or so that it's not just something you've printed straight out of your computer, but feels right as a whole thing, not just the design. Working again with the colour palette that Ed set, that you can't kind of just go and pick things off the shelf for that from prop houses or whatever, because obviously it's quite a specific thing, and you have to rework things or work from, you know, reference, and then make it fit how Ed, the designer, wants it to kind of look as a whole.